Hi, this is Ed here with InCity HotSpots.com. We want to welcome you to our podcast, Ref Life, the goods, the bads, and the unknowns. I want to introduce to you my special guest today. He's like my brother. He's officially my cousin by blood, right? But I call him my brother because we grew up together since we were, 3, 4 years old. We used to play basketball every day. And without further ado, Julian Chong, welcome back. What's going on?
What's going on, bro? How you doing?
It's been a while, man.
It's been a long while.
How many years has it been?
It's been like 3 years, man. 3 years since I've been in and out of Brownsville for 3 years now. I've been working in Louisiana, been working in Georgia, and I've been back for several months now. But it's good to be back, man. Brownsville's home. You know, Brownsville's home, and it's good to be here in this beautiful stadium. But I'm excited to be here and talk about basketball.
Awesome. Do you miss officiating basketball, high school basketball?
I do, man. That's officiating high school basketball or just basketball is my passion, man. It's one of the things that I love, that I fell in love with. Something that I got pushed into and didn't know that I would ever love it. But I'm glad that I did, that I was pushed into it. And, like I said, it's one of my passions, my life's passions.
Yeah, it is. Tell me about it, right? It is a passion that we've enjoyed throughout the years, and I'm still doing it after 20 years. Yeah, how many years? How many years total, more or less, have you officiated?
More or less, I guess you could say like off and on, but like
Off and
15
about
years
15 years total.
since I was like, what, 18, 19 years old, since I was able to officiate, was that age where I was able to start off and do, middle school games or midnight league, stuff like that. So it's been 15 years.
15 years, and how time has flown. I'm pretty sure. I've been, like I said, I've been doing it for 20 years. I've reached the 20-year mark. I started off in 2002, also right out of high school. I was 18 years old, and I guess we have the similar experiences. Right out of high school, 18 years old, and we tried it out. We liked it. Now we love it, and we've been going. Here we are, 20 years later, 15 years later, and little things have changed here and there throughout the times. We've learned more. I've learned more. You know, um, I enjoy it as much? Yes, I do. But now it's different a little bit. With a family.
Yeah, when it's something that you love doing, I don't think that enjoyment or not enjoying it will ever go away. You know what I mean? And it's basketball, man. Like we love basketball. We grew up playing basketball. When we were little kids, we would always be at each other's houses. You know, those heated 2-on-2 games with my brother, your
Oh
brother,
yeah.
and just the neighborhood kids. Sometimes I remember when I was smaller, you guys would come to my house, and one of your friends, I guess at the time, James Rangel, you guys would be going at it in my backyard. James, a couple other cats that I can't remember their names, but yeah, man, basketball has always been life for us.
You remember? So you remember winning and losing during
Yeah,
those
man.
times. I remember dominating during those days. Of
I
course, I was older, so I'd use it to my
Yeah, I
advantage.
mean, it would get heated, just like everything else. I'm a competitive person. You're a competitive person, and but those are the days that you'll never forget. You know what I mean? And I don't remember it like you do, where you said you used to dominate all the time. Maybe you did when I was a little younger, but yeah, man, fun times.
Yeah, once you all got into high school and I was in college, and we still used to play a little bit,
Yeah.
but it was a different ball game. You all would hold your own, and you know the wins were wins and the losses were losses, and I had to settle with some of the losses, but that's all part of the game, right? And it's a lot of fun. We love the game of basketball, and that's why we went into officiating. So I want to talk a little bit about. I'm happy to have you here today. Welcome back. It's been a while. I hadn't seen you. What's your status? Are you single? Are you taken? Are you available?
I am taken.
You're taken.
I'm taken. Well, I mean, I'm not married, right? So in a sense, like you can say I'm still single, but I've been in a serious relationship for about a year now. I've been dating this girl from here, from Brownsville, and we've been going on for a little bit more than a year. So that's my status.
Cool. And the reason I asked was getting into basketball talk is it's a little bit different between you. You're single. I'm married. I have two kids. I have my wife. So I can't pick up and go like I used to back in the day. We were 18, 19, 20, in our mid 20s. So, which is it's a great thing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're single or if you're married. It's officiating basketball is the beauty about it. You're your own boss. You can officiate when you want to, when you're available, and if you can't, you can't, right? And that's still the opportunity that we have to still be engaged in the love of the game. We're still able to officiate, and on our own time. Yeah.
Yeah, and she hasn't really been exposed to, I guess, like that side of me. You know what I mean? Because obviously we haven't been together long enough for her to experience me be traveling up and down the valley and stuff like that. But she was able to go to some of the games during the men's league, and she was up in the stands and stuff like that. So she was able to see me do some work, as we say. But yeah, it's a lot different when you're married with kids.
Yeah, hopefully it was a warm up for you all, so, to get to experience as a couple, right? Some of the just to get to in conversation, some of the things that happen, like you said, the travel. Once officiating comes, I'm not sure if you're planning on coming back to officiating. Not knowing your status, if you're gonna be here for a while, or if you're gonna take off. But if you do have time and you're able to officiate again, um,
Yeah, that's something that I'm hoping to do in the fall. Come fall time, I don't know if I will be here or not, but at the end of the day, if I am, that's something that I definitely want to do, man. I miss it. I miss it. Like I said, it's one of my passions in life, and if I could do it, I'll do it. And if I'm not able to, well, you know.
Yeah. Well, and the beauty about it also is it doesn't matter where you live. There's basketball everywhere, right? If you're in Texas, if you're in another state, anywhere across the nation, there's high school basketball, and you can become a member, and you can continue officiating, continue with the passion that you have, and make your money and continue doing what you like to do. It's all about what we like to do, right? And that's something that I think the reason why we've stuck with it so long for so many years is because we like to do it. It's become part of one of the things that we love, right? It's rare, I guess you say, as a man, in my opinion, some there's so many things that I love, but officiating is one of those few things that there's things that I like and there's things that I love, and officiating is I love, and I take it seriously, and then it provides a good little supplemental income for the family, spending money, holiday money, Christmas money. So what is it that y'all want here? Enjoy.
I bet that's a good feeling, man.
Daddy's out there working, taking the heat day in and day out in the evenings, but it's fun at the end of the day. I guess we were built for that,
Yeah.
right? We can take it. So I want to talk a little bit about the off season, right? How did we get started? I got started off in the off season. You got started off in the off season. What does that mean? I think most of our reps, we were able to climb the ranks through our association a little bit quicker than others because we got to experience so many reps, heavy games, quickly, and that a lot of that comes to through our midnight basketball program. You remember midnight basketball, right? Years
Yeah, I
ago.
definitely remember midnight
You
basketball.
want to talk a little bit about midnight, what it was
Yeah, well, we were heavily involved in midnight basketball.
as a player?
As a player, not only as a player, but I remember as a little kid. You know what I mean? I can't remember exactly how old I was, but I remember spending the weekends, Fridays and Saturdays, at either Oliveira Park or Gonzalez Park, helping out with the book, doing the clock and stuff like that. And it kind of grew into a family thing, between us and Chris Patter, who then at that time was spearheaded by Chris Patterson, which is Chris Patterson's like family to us as well. But yeah, I experienced it as a little kid, then into a player, and then finally at that age where I was able to officiate into official.
Yeah, I remember. To piggyback on that, we started off with 6 teams the first initial season, and every year after that, for the next 10 years, it just
Grew
grew,
and grew
grew,
and
and
grew
grew
and
and
grew.
grew. The numbers went up, and I think we went up to about 125 teams, more or less. So what was originally supposed to be just Friday nights and Saturday nights of basketball from the hours of 9 p.m., 10, 11, and 12, we would finish at 1. Actually, we wouldn't even go to 12. Initially started at 9, 10, and 11, and we were done by 12. It was 6 teams, 3 games a night, and it just grew quickly. It was a program that I think came from, if I'm not mistaken, El Paso,
Yeah,
right?
somewhere up
And we
there.
tried the concept out, and thanks to my father that said, you know what, I volunteer to run this program. 6 teams right now, and 10 years later, it grew, and he was running, a midnight basketball program that had 125 teams, and it was a lot of fun, good experiences, goods and bads.
Yeah, I was gonna say my fondest memories was like getting out of those games and going to eat tacos afterwards. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
And also, you just mentioned your father, my uncle Sergio, senior. I think we got to give him a lot of thanks and a lot of gratitude towards him because you said he volunteered. He took initiative, and he said that he was gonna, take the ball and run with it. And maybe if it wasn't for him, maybe we wouldn't have got into officiating, and maybe we wouldn't have been able to get to where we're at or where we got to officiating wise because of him.
I agree. I never saw myself as an official. We've spoken about it a couple of times, and we were both playing at that time. We were basketball players, and as soon as I graduated high school, I was 18, and the league was already starting to grow little by little. And he's like, "Hey, have you ever thought about officiating?" I was like, "No, I've never thought about officiating," because I didn't know, who, what, when, where, and why, how to get started. And he was like, "Well, let's try it out. Try it out. You can try it out here in the midnight program and see if you like it, right? And if you like it, then once the season starts through UIL, then you can give it a chance and you go from there." And so I was like, "Well, I never thought about it, but I'll give it a try." And here we are now. Never look back. And I think similar story. You graduated high school, and I was like, "Hey, have you ever thought about officiating basketball?" I've been doing it for a couple years already, and your response was probably about the same, right? You're like, "No,
Yeah, like I never thought that I would grow up to be a basketball official. Uh, in my playing days, I was very competitive. I was not so nice to a lot of officials, and I just never thought about it, man. I always saw them in a different light. Maybe because I was always angry as a little kid or when I was younger. But yeah, I got to that age. You kind of pushed me into it. I also did it because of the money
yeah."
at that time. It was kind of like easy money, how we would say easy money. And yeah, I got started, never looked back.
And I agree. Right off the bat, just thinking about it right now as we're talking about it, your personality while you used to play, I remember, giving you technical fouls because, I mean, you were bad. You were bad as a player. You wanted all the calls. And I agree. Some of those calls were fouls. Some of them, some of the calls, it was hard for me as being family, being blood, that I knew every call that I made in your favor or my brother's favor or your brother, and right, our cousins, all our other cousins also played basketball through that program. I knew it was hard because anytime I made a call in y'all's favor, perception in the stands was going to be, "Oh, well, he's family, that's why he made that call." It could have been the correct call or not,
Yeah.
but I always had that in the back of my mind. So some of those times, you would drive to the basket and you get hit. Well, if there wasn't that
It
much
wasn't that
contact,
hard, or it
I
didn't
wasn't
affect
gonna
them
call
that
a foul
much.
because after a while, I didn't want that heat. And that's where some of the frustration came out, and that frustration turned into more frustration, and eventually to where I had to continue with the discipline. The technical foul, unsportsmanlike behavior, and there was even a couple of times where I threw you out of the gym. Right, it was excessive to that aspect. It was all fun and games at the end.
Yeah, 100%. Like
A game was a
we never
game.
held any grudges. Maybe the next time I saw you at my house, your house, church, or wherever the case may be, there might be a little like, but at the end of the day, like we're family, dude. Like I get it, it's tough. I have younger brothers. Like you mentioned, we have younger cousins that also played
and friends
and
and
friends and stuff like that, and it just puts it in a hard spot, you know. Everybody's paying attention. The other team, the fans, and they're looking like, oh, is he gonna make the call for him? Is he not gonna make the call
yeah.
for him? And it's a definite hard spot to be in, and I don't wish that on anybody.
I remember. So going back on that, I remember like, man, would Julian make a good official? Knowing knowing his personality, and lo and behold, it's been a great. I don't want to say turnaround, but it's been a great experience for you, and you're calm and collective, and you understand the game differently. Now it's always different, right? It's always different than when we play the game. I would challenge anybody that's played the game or that's watched the game. We got to experience a little bit about Richard Jefferson, right? His experience as a first time official referee in an NBA game, and we got to see his performance. And this is a player that played at the elite level, the NBA. I think you said he won a national championship. If I'm not mistaken.
I'm not. I don't really remember. I
Been a
want to say
while.
yes. I want to say that he did. He was on one of those Arizona teams, man, that went far. He might have. He might not have. I know he definitely won an NBA championship
NBA championship.
as a player. But I mean, you're talking about Richard Jefferson, who played in the league for like 15 years, 15 plus years, at the highest level. Played with some of the greats. Played against some of the greats, and him being at the commentary table for ESPN, he's always throwing jabs at officials. He's always saying, "Oh, how can you make that call, or how can you not make that call, and what is he looking at, and blah 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 blah." And same with a lot of these other guys that are in the stands or just watching from the couch on TV. Like, and I can tell, well, I do tell everybody that it's not easy, man. It's a hard job to do. You're put on the spot. I feel like you have to process a million and one things in the split second, and all you got to process all that, and it's not easy. His first call was overturned. It was an out of bounds call. He pointed the wrong way, and his co-official came in and corrected him and made him look bad.
Yeah,
You
I
know what I
remember.
mean?
I remember that first call that he made. I was in the living room with my wife, and I saw him make the call, and I was like, "Oh man, not his first call. Not don't change. Please don't change his first call. The first call he's ever gonna have in his officiating career. As an official, you never want that to happen." And sure and behold, like you said, the call was overturned. It was a correct call. The correct call needed to be made, but that's always gonna be there.
And it's funny because he didn't make another call after that. He didn't blow his whistle. He had opportunities to make some calls on some plays that were in his primary, obviously. And Monty McCutcheon, who's the director for NBA officiating, he was on commentary while Richard Jefferson was out on the floor, and he gave a lot of great insight and whatnot. And at the end of the day, it's not easy, man. Not everybody can do it. Everybody thinks they can, but can't.
I think after a while, it's like any job. We make things look easy. We've had so many reps under our belt, and we have a lot of composure on the court. How we move, how we run, it just looks smooth. It looks natural. It looks like we're not doing much, but like you said, there's a million thoughts being processed every split second. Do I blow my whistle here? Do I not blow my whistle? What's going on there? What's going on in my area? What's going on in his area? What's going on in that area? Are my officials in the right spot? Did they move? Do I need to move? Was that a foul? Was it not a foul? Why was it not a foul? Like all that's going on in a split second, millions of thoughts, and we have to have great reaction time. We don't have time to think,
Yeah.
but we still think, but it's just at such a fast pace, and we have to react. We have to react, and after a while, our reaction time has gotten a lot better than when we started officiating. I remember when I started officiating at the beginning, I was like, man, it was just tough. It was tough, and now I can see everything's like in slow mo now, regardless of the tempo of the game. It
Yeah.
can be a fast paced game, but everybody thinks it's easy because some of us can make it look easy now. We know what we're doing. We feel more confident. How we portray ourselves on the court. Shows that confidence. Hopefully, sometimes it's confidence. Sometimes it's I don't know if cockiness is. I don't think it's cockiness anymore. When I started officiating, I probably had a little bit of the cockiness because I wasn't sure of what I was doing, and my ego and my pride were high. But once I started understanding the game a lot more as the years went on, pride and ego went out the door, and I was no longer cocky. Now I'm confident. So anytime anybody approaches me, I'm able to have a decent a conversation with them and explain. Well, coach, by rule, this is this and that happened. The reason he didn't call that, or the reason I called this or didn't call that, was because, and you explain it. Whatever was in the rule book, but it took time. It took time.
Yeah, the key word is confidence. If you're not confident in what you're doing, you're only setting yourself up for failure. And I can't tell you how many times that when I started, I was not confident at all. I remember that I can't remember if it was in a off-season game or it was a middle school game, or like I said, I started. I wanted to make a call, and I went from here. Close fist means we're signaling a foul call, and I went like this.
Yeah, I remember those days.
And I was not confident at all. You know what I mean? And those times were is a weird time, but totally day and night to where I'm at right now.
And that's because you thought that you knew what you were doing because you had been
Yeah,
playing basketball, since you were 3, 4 years old, all the way through high school. You had 10, 12, 13, 14 years of basketball experience playing consistently, thinking that it's not going to be that hard once I get on the other side. Right. And that's where I think everybody's at. Or a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people,
yeah, because you don't know until you're put on the spot.
until you're put on the spot.
I mean, I guess it's just with like everything else in life. You think you can do this or that, but when it comes down to it, sometimes you get put on the spot and you're not able to perform or do what you need to do.
Yeah. And going back to what you just said, all those bloopers that you had officiating, I had some of those bloopers too. A lot of those bloopers were done, thankfully, throughout in the midnight basketball program. It was a recreational league that allowed us to get our feet wet and to get the reps and get all those bloopers out of the way.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
by the time our first year of UIL basketball officiating came around,
We're already seasoned
we were
veterans.
seasoned veterans in some way in our eyes. And it just it created a flow. So yeah, going back to all the bloopers, getting them out of the way, we had opportunity, so much opportunity throughout the year, the calendar year, right? We had the midnight basketball program. We had a fall season, we had a spring season, and we had a summer season. So 3 out of the 4 yearly seasons, we had basketball going, high school basketball, that we were able to get our reps, right? And that one season that we didn't have midnight basketball was in the winter. It's when UIL basketball was going on, right? From the months of November, from November all the way to like mid February, right? And then going to the playoffs, and we go from there. So it was just year round basketball. We were officiating pretty much, you know, those days of midnight basketball. We were working Friday nights from 6 in the afternoon till 1 in the morning, and we go straight. And then Saturday morning, and we wake up early because Saturday morning we were back at it at 8 in the morning because of the amount of teams that we had, and we had to go from 8 in the morning all the way till 1 o'clock a.m. And then we go back at it on Sunday from 8 in the morning all the way till about 6 or 7 on Sunday afternoons. And that was weekend after weekend after weekend games. And we were knocking out 10, 12, 15 hours of games every single day. Multiply those games times reps, how many sprints we were doing, how many opportunities, how many plays we were able to see, how many, fouls we were able to call and not call, and all that's where all the bloopers came out. And we just had that was just the midnight basketball program. Now during the week, I remember we also had our men's league, men's league in our areas, and we also used to travel to other cities right throughout the Rio Grande Valley. And we used to call. I remember traveling to officiate some of those men's leagues as well, and it was a different type of officiating, men's league, right? Officiating men with big egos, lots of pride. Here we are being the youngsters, 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, and I guess telling these men how to play basketball, enforcing the rules, and I had my experiences through the men's league. I had my bloopers, and but I was able to learn the game a little bit better. And I don't know. You want to talk a little bit about your experiences as in the comparison between officiating high school basketball or midnight program off season, and then still continuing in the off season, Monday through Friday, working men's basketball.
Yeah, man. There's a lot of differences between officiating varsity, sub varsity, opposed to grown men. And why I say grown men is because at that time, you're 18, 19, maybe 20 years old, and most of the guys playing in that league are older than you. You know what I mean? You have to stand your ground. At the same time, you have to be respectful because if you're not, you're gonna have long nights, long days, long nights. But I'm glad that I was able to have that experience because it taught me to grow up a lot faster in the officiating, in my officiating career. Um, if you didn't stand your ground, if you didn't have good communication skills, you would get run over, and who knows what would happen after that, man. The games would be over, and a lot of these guys hold a lot of grudges. Maybe they wait for you outside the gym, or maybe they see you out somewhere, and um, it was just it was an experience to say the least.
I agree. I agree. I went through those experiences myself in the men's league. Um, a lot of egos, a lot of pride, and a lot of challenges. A lot of challenges. They would challenge every call. Every call, you had to hold your ground, and I think that's what made us tougher. Stronger,
Thick
like thick
skin.
skin, right? And I agree. Our communication skills needed to improve, or our knowledge of the rules needed to be understood a lot quicker than we would have just stuck with high school basketball, right? Because these guys know they played the game. There were some guys that played college basketball. There were some guys that played semi pro as well. So here we are in college, 20 years old, 21 years old, telling these guys what to do, what not to do. And here they are telling us, well, who are you? You're only 20 years old, 21 years old, and what do you know about basketball? I know more than you. And that was the battle. That was the battle. I remember a lot of going through a lot of having to hold my own and issue technical fouls and ejections, because it would escalate. But at the end of the day, one thing that I do remember clearly is that those leagues, as far as men's leagues are concerned, in the different cities in the Rio Grande Valley, and our midnight basketball league as well, there was a lot of discipline at the end of the day. Discipline meaning with administration, right? So in those men's leagues, there was always a person in charge, an administrator. So anytime something would happen, they always had the officials back, right? Which allowed us to continue doing our job and continue wanting to come back. In the midnight basketball program, we always had an administrator on site that would have the officials back. Because all we were doing was enforcing the rules. We weren't making anything up. We were just enforcing what was written. And sometimes people didn't like. To this day, people don't like to follow rules.
And I don't think it's just some people. I think it's most. I don't want to say all, but yeah, a lot of people don't like to follow the rules, man. At the end of the day, like, I mean, it goes back to when we were players, right? We always thought we were right. Same thing goes with them. And if you don't put a stop to it or have somebody there to have your back, then who has your back out there? Your other partner? Maybe, maybe not. But that's very important to have had someone there. You're out there trying. You're not making up the rules. You're just enforcing them. Uh, there's somebody there, an administrator, program director, that's there to enforce the rules and have somebody's back.
And I think times have changed a little bit. There's been a shift in how protected the officials are now in the year 2022 compared to the year 2002. 20 years ago, 18 years ago, 15 years ago. Um, I think now it's we have to fend for ourselves now. We're at the mercy of the organization. I don't know. It's just my personal opinion. I've backed away a little bit from officiating local weekend tournaments. I backed away from officiating some of these leagues, some of these youth leagues and men's leagues, because we don't have the discipline, the backing that we used to have years ago as officials. Where if it would escalate, usually the administrator could take care of it, and they had our back. And through communication, things were resolved. And then come the next game, the coach was back or the player was back, and things were flowing again, right?
Yeah.
Now, and at that point, before I move on, and at that point, if it escalated, then yeah, administration would call local law enforcement. Bring me local law enforcement. Disturbance of the peace, or they would take care of it. We had to file a police report, but there was always something being done. We
But
felt,
you knew somebody at the end of the day had your back.
yeah, I knew. And now, what's your take on where we were versus where we're at now?
I mean, I don't know, man. It's sad to see where it's at now, because, like you said, back in the day when we started, a few years into that, we always had a strong backing. Like I said, from program director, tournament director, and then slowly it just started changing the other way, man. Uh, I think these tournament directors got greedy, to be honest with you, and they started thinking more about the customer or the dollar more than they did, their actual officials. Uh, if we had to discipline somebody, it was easier to blame the official than it was to, talk to the coach or talk to the fan
And
or
the parents of
or
of
the
the
parents of the
team.
team and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like, and that's sad to see, man. That goes on a lot today. Um, just like yourself, obviously, I haven't been officiating over the past 3 years a lot, but I remember these weekend tournaments. Me too, man. That's why I kind of stopped working as much during these weekend tournaments, because I would see that the tournament director didn't have our backs, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating because if they don't have your back, well, then who has your back, bro? It's you and the other guy, and the other guy might not have your back. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, I mean, we're gonna be always looked in a different light than everybody else, right?
Yeah, and this is not only like a local problem. This is a
Everywhere.
nationwide problem.
Yeah.
This is where all the problems are happening throughout the nation. You see a lot of physical assaults on these officials throughout the nation that are popping up on social media, and and it goes back to, yeah, it's because of the same thing. It's easier, like you said, it's easier to replace an official, than have to go replace a team, or some of these teams. For example, one of the coaches for a team, he's got 5 teams, right, in different age divisions, and not only is the tournament director going to lose that one team, but now they're going to lose
All
all
five
5 teams.
teams.
So for example, they're charging a tournament, they're charging $150, $200, entry fee for the tournament. It's easier to lose an official that you're going to pay minimal per game than to go out and try to get a team or 5 teams at $150,
A pop.
a pop, and things. And that's what I think, that's where we're at in the problems that we're having, because we don't have the backing of these tournament directors anymore. Therefore, a lot of seasoned officials, veteran officials, good quality officials that can handle these type of games, that should be handling, we should be able to be working in the off season still, without any problems. But we don't feel comfortable as officials working in the off season, because this is where we get most of our reps, because this is where most of the problems are happening in the off season. And this is where we got to because we were able to climb the ranks quickly because of the off season work. All these local tournaments, um, all these local leagues, and I don't know. It's a little frustrating after a while, because you're like, man, I want to continue working on my game, on our craft, but where do we do it?
Yeah, I think it's very important, man, to get as many games as you can in the off season. And like you said, it's kind of hard the way things are nowadays and whatnot compared to how they were back in the day. Um, but you gotta hone in your craft. You gotta work at your craft. You gotta see these plays. You gotta get as many reps as you can, so that way you can get ready for the UIL season. Here in Texas we have the UIL, and a lot of these guys, okay, some of these guys don't see a basketball play until October, and then we finish in either late June, what is it, January or February,
Mid February.
mid February, and then they don't see another play until October, and you have, and they want to get better games, they want to get better, but at the end of the day, you're not gonna get better if you're not putting in the work in the off season.
So you agree that off season work
By
is
far, it's the most
the
important
most
thing. The
important
most
thing.
important thing in the officiating game, because you got to get that work in, man. It's practice. It's just like everything else, like shooting a basketball. If you don't practice shooting the basketball, like when you don't practice free throws, like when are you ever gonna get good at shooting free throws
Yeah,
or shooting 3 pointers, or if you're working on your bank shots, like you don't get shots up, how are you ever gonna get better?
I agree, and that goes with you got to get everything that we do. The more reps we get, just naturally, we're gonna get better. Coaches do it with they. Why do they practice every day with their players?
Because they want to get the
Because
reps
why do
in.
they
They have to
practice?
get the reps
Why do
in.
these kids keep practicing in the off season? Why don't these kids just play during UIL season and then come back a year later and play? Because they're losing out. They're not going to be in shape. They're not getting the reps. We know it's very important. So I agree 100%. It's the most important thing, getting your reps in the off season as much as you can and continue your training, not only your mental, not only your mental training, but also, physically, your physical conditioning. You don't want to wait until a couple weeks before UIL season starts in the winter and start. That's I think that's and it happens. It happens. I'm pretty sure it happens in many places where like, okay, season's right around the corner. Let's start getting in shape. Let's start walking. Let's start jogging a little bit. So you can start keeping up with these fast kids. But if you're consistent throughout your off season training, you're never gonna miss a beat.
Yeah, I was always on the mindset that season's over. Maybe you take a couple weeks break, and then you're back into it, man. Hitting the gym, doing your cardio. If you do any type of workout, whatever workout you do, and get some reps going. Because if you're trying to get started, or if you're trying to get ready 2 weeks before the season, 3 weeks before the season, even a month before the season, like you're already late in the game. You know what I mean? So I thought that was very important in my regimen, that I would get ready, uh, a few weeks after the season was over.
I mean, I agree. I agree 100% with how things used to be, how things are now, how important the off season is. Too. But like we just said right now, we spoke about how things are not the same, right? How things have gotten a little bit worse throughout the nation. A lot of these physical assaults are being done on officials. There's a lot of verbal abuse going on still. I think that has also escalated greatly.
Yeah, I feel like every year it gets worse
Worse.
and worse. You see these videos on Instagram, Twitter, where fans are attacking, coaches are attacking, players are attacking these officials. And like back in the day, like when did you ever see that? You know what I mean? Sometimes I just look at those videos and I'm like, man, I'm glad I'm not officiating anymore.
Yeah.
Um, but it's tough, man. The other day, actually, I saw this video. I can't remember if it was on Instagram or Twitter. Somebody must have sent it to me, of an official like fighting back, man, and he actually knocked out somebody that was trying to attack him. But that I know that that's not a position that I ever want to be in.
I agree because then it creates a mess. Now law enforcement comes in. Now they got to figure out what happened, and now we're involved in a bigger situation. Well, none of this needed to happen if there would have been more a better backing, right? More administration, law enforcement at the facility. A lot of these facilities don't even have law enforcement,
Right.
right? That you can go to. A security officer is not going to do the job that a police officer is capable of doing. The level of training is different. I think there's a lot more respect towards police officers, law enforcement, that are fully equipped versus a standalone security officer. Not to knock them down, but
Yeah, I was gonna say not to
not
disrespect
to
anybody.
disrespect, but the facts are the facts. Like, how is one individual going to protect a group of officials from a mass crowd, right? From a team, from a coach, from a spectator. It's tough. What's the solution? There's a problem going on. There's a problem nationwide. What's the solution to that problem? How do we get our off-season work, knowing that it's this important, knowing that this is where you get good, but we can't do our off-season work because there's no protection for us like there used to be back in the day. What's the solution? What's the answer?
I don't know, man. Your guess is as good as mine. I wish I can have an answer for you, but at the end of the day, I don't know, man. If these people, again, tournament directors, league directors, if uh, if they don't have our backs, we're at a total disadvantage, man. So I don't know how we fix that problem.
And I know that to have law enforcement at local tournaments, that are you have a tournament director, right, that runs a whole tournament, so he's out recruiting. I understand the work that goes into it as a local director. I get it. And that's another cost too. That's another cost to having law enforcement, paying them hourly, overtime, and whatever it is, however it is that it works. So sometimes, not wanting to have that expense is a reason why some local tournament directors take a chance and take a risk. Well, it's not in our budget. We're not. It's not. It doesn't benefit us. Financially. So I need you to take a risk, and I need you to. Do you want to work? And we have the option to work, and they have the option to hire us if they want to. Right? It's. But I just think that now are the days where the numbers are low, right? Of those officials that do want to continue working in the off season because of all this mess that's going on. So it's just, I think this is another topic in itself, for another episode later on, as far as, how can we help improve the relationship and the relationship between maybe officials and tournament directors and league directors. What is it that we need for the experienced officials, the veteran officials, some good quality officials to work these off-season games so we can continue getting our reps, right? So we can continue seeing plays and so we can continue improving our craft at the end of the day. So once the UIL season comes back, we're ready to go.